So we are back at our model, and it's time to just kind of finish out the interior of this building. One of the first things that is kind of a three-dimensional, multi-level element in our project is the stairs. So let's work on a set of stairs. Now, I'm here in floor plan. That's typically where you draw stairs. And we're going to put in some stairs here in the back of the project. And these will be the existing single run of fire stairs. And you can probably guess which tool is going to get us a stair. It's the stair tool. And there's a nice little description of how it works. I'll just click on the tool. Click on the tool here. And we do enter sketch mode like we have done with other building elements. And but the way that stairs work is slightly different. They're a lot more complicated. First of all, over here in the properties, what you'll see, there are different stair families. This is what's it's calling an assembled stair. I'm not really sure what that actually means. I guess it's put together by pieces. And it has a 7-inch maximum riser height and an 11-inch minimum tread height. That is the typical IBC code, except that the IBC is in metric. Anyway, and it tells you what level the stair goes up to. So it's going to calculate how big the riser, or how tall the risers need to be based on this level height. Okay, it's figured out that those two levels are 15 feet apart. If you start messing with these, say an offset height, it will recalculate. Right now, it's giving us a rather precise number, 6 and 59/64 inches. Probably in an older building, they've actually rounded it up to be a number which makes sense with the brick coursing. So it's probably, I don't think in 1910 or whenever this building was made that was exactly how it worked. But anyway, you can see it has 26 risers. Now the only thing that is not in here is the width of the stair. To get to that, we have to go and edit the stair type. So, as is typical with Revit, you do have to set most dimensional characteristics in some sort of menu. The minimum stair width is what we're talking about here, and 3'8" is really the minimum based on the accessibility code. 3 is a little narrow. Okay, although again, in an existing building, you would often see that. There are a large number of other options which we are not even going to talk about. Okay, so I'll click apply and okay. And now what we want to do is draw the runs of stairs. Okay, and the way this works, this is actually a graphical element. You click once to start the stair, and you see how Revit is telling me down here how many risers have been created and how many are remaining. Okay, and that's super handy because you typically want to go up with your, you typically want to go up about halfway. Whoops, there we go. So 13 is halfway. Now, note how my cursor is giving me this dashed green line. Stairs, the next run typically starts to occur right at the same landing point of the first run of stairs. Okay, so I'm going to use that alignment tool. And then when you reached the highest point, with 0 risers remaining, just click to place the extra stair. And you might say, well, this gap in the middle is a little big for this kind of stair. You can just select the run and manipulate it. Okay? And we'll learn later on that you can really customize these runs. Also, Revit added a landing. The landing is the same width as whatever you've defined, so it's 3'8". Okay, and there you go. There's a stair. You just click the checkbox, the green checkbox, as before, to finish your editing. All right, and there you go. It actually graphically manipulates the view. It puts in a cut line. It puts in an up arrow, which is handy, or an up indicator. And it cuts it off after a few feet. So everything above the cut point is a dashed line. So I'm going to just nudge my nudge my stair over here up against the outer wall. Okay. And we're going to need another wall to kind of enclose the stair. As I've done in the past, I have mentioned this, I often grab a wall and just click the Create Similar button. I find that this is a quick way to generate a wall. And let's put it about 7 feet off of the side, off the outside wall. Okay, there's one wall. Okay, now the other side of this wall, I happen to know, is going to be the plumbing wall for the bathrooms that are there. So I'm going to use this exterior wall, which is 12 inches, and I'm going to create another instance of that wall over here. Okay. And again, when you go and draw your walls, as we saw earlier, using these dashed lines will heal the walls. Now, finally, you can absolutely be super precise with these stairs. In this case, because really we're just getting these in as a design element, I'm just going to nudge these walls over to make them fit. All right. And some doors would be nice, wouldn't they? But before we put in a door, let me just delete this dimension here. The start of the stairs, if you click on the stairs, I want the start of the stairs to be in the back of this space. So stairs, there are a number of ways that you can manipulate them. You can use a lot of the editing tools, but it also has basically a flip direction button. Okay, and you can see here that it's a pretty easy way to flip the stairs around. And obviously the up arrow and the annotation, all the dashed lines and everything go with it. So now that we have completed the stair, we just need to make sure that the shaft around the stair is properly enclosed, which is to say it goes all the way up to the underside of roof. And that's pretty straightforward. You just select the different walls here, and each one has been drawn at kind of a different point. But the big thing is their base constraint. Their base constraint, base offset, should be 0. They should start at the ground, basically at street level. And the top constraint should be the roof. Okay, and hit apply. And what you should see if we go to the section view is that these walls go, well, they should go up to the roof. I'm not sure, maybe I missed that wall. Anyway, if you happen to miss the wall, you see how it doesn't quite go all the way to the roof. You can select the wall, and in section is the easiest way, and just choose attach top or base. And what that will do, you can pick a building element that will glue to that wall. And there you go. You have yourself a nice stair shaft. Lovely stair. And as you can see, the graphics look just fine here on the first floor. However, as we look at the section, a couple of things stand out. One of them is that as you go up the stairs, looks like you're going to hit your head on this floor. Okay, the floor is actually kind of a problem, and what we need to do is get rid of this little section of floor. Let me show you what I mean up on the second level floor plan. I'm just going to go over to my floor plans section of my project browser and double click on the second floor. And what you see here, or really what you don't see, is you don't see the stairs through here. See, as I mouse over the object and it tries to select them, there are my stairs. I should be seeing that through the floor. Okay. Now, Revit gives you a pretty easy way to cut a hole in the floor. It's actually called an opening tool, and it's over here on the upper right of your screen. There are a couple of different kinds of openings. There's one that's meant to go in a wall, one that's meant to be a vertical opening, which obviously is what we want. There's one that's by face, which is kind of perpendicular to whatever face you're working on, which would also work. A shaft goes through multiple levels. So if we had a 4-story building, that would be ideal, but we don't. So let's just go with the vertical opening. And one nice thing is when you click on that, it wants to open through a floor. So you see how it's not giving me any highlights other than this little tiny tooltip as I mouse over the edge of my floor. So graphically, I can't really see what I've got selected. So I know that it's not going to accidentally select a wall. So just click on that little sliver of the edge of the wall in order to edit it. And here we are in edit mode. And in fact, the kind of correct way to draw an opening for a stair is to have the entire shaft of the wall go up to the roof. Okay, and have it be open. And if you think about it, when you're inside a stair, you see that interior wall, and it's pretty continuous. So what I want to do is I want to draw a rectangle, really from one corner here all the way down to the other. You know, I'm being a little picky because I don't know, because I can. It's not actually absolutely important. We're never going to do any perspectives of that stair, but whatever. Anyway, you just draw the continuous loop. Has to be a continuous loop. No overlapping lines. No double loops. No donuts. And click checkbox to finish the sketch. And there you go. You can see into the stairwell. And finally, there's a couple things you need to do to kind of finish this out. You need to draw a little itty bitty little stair landing up here at the top. That's just a floor, okay? And as we did before, you'll want to choose a size. Let's just use the generic 12 inch. It's a little overkill in this situation. And I'll just draw a rectangle to represent the floor. Okay. All that effort just to make it so that it looks correct in section. All right, and let's go back to our section. Oh yeah, see, that's much better. See how the vertical wall goes up like a real shaft. Now, a few other things that are kind of annoying here that, I don't know, are picky. These railings are actually not correct. If I click on this railing, it says it's a handrail that's rectangular. Now, when Revit draws a stair, it automatically puts in kind of whatever railings, I don't know, it finds lying around the Revit shop floor. So we need to change this to a guardrail. And fortunately, there is a guardrail loaded into our project. I'm going to choose let's choose the rectangle. Oh, very stylish. It basically looks exactly the same, but if you know your building codes, it has it's at least 42 inches tall, and it has a handrail mounted down below. Now, the outer guardrail here doesn't need to be a guardrail at all. All it needs to be is a handrail, because there's a perimeter wall that we just spent such a big effort making look nice. I could get into editing these guardrails, but I'm not going to, because it kind of opens up a can of worms. So instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to another drawing that I happen to have just lying around. That's an old Revit sample drawing that has different kinds of handrails. Again, the reason I'm prevaricating around the bush here is that they're just a little hard to set up. Okay, even simple things like getting extensions at the end of these handrails and guardrails is kind of complicated. So we'll save that for another day when we're perhaps a little more caffeinated. Anyway, I'm just going to choose this handrail pipe wall dash ramp, and I'm going to do Control-C to copy, and I'm going to go to my other Revit drawing. Anyway, you should be able to paste this, Control-V, right into your drawing. It will tell you if there's any elements within that handrail that's a duplicate of ones in there. Just say OK. And you might say, well, where the heck is it? It's not there. You can only put handrails in floor plan, but it's been loaded into the drawing. And now it should be an option here in my list. And in fact, here it is, handrail pipe. Okay. And what you'll see as you zoom in here is that there's just a handrail along this outer wall instead of the guardrail. If we go to floor plan, by the way, let's go to the second level floor plan. The stair actually probably doesn't look any different at all. And toilet rooms are actually, pretty straightforward. The hard part with drawing toilet rooms is loading in all the different fixtures. They're all components. Just go to component and load the family. Of course, there are none in your project. And again, if you're working in a template, you might have these things already loaded in, but we don't have that template with items that we use frequently in it. Anyway, go to the plumbing folder under architectural, under fixtures, and you should see some water closets. And let's use the 3D toilet, okay, the wall-mounted commercial toilet. You might say, why don't we use the 2D one? Wouldn't that save us computing power if we use 2D fixtures instead of 3? I'm never going to do a perspective of the bathroom. And yes, it would, but I'm going to use the 3D one. And the main reason is because I wanted to show you how a hosted fixture works. What happens is you cannot put the toilet just anywhere willy-nilly. You have to put this one against a wall. And the reason is because it is a wall-hosted toilet, okay, a wall-hosted fixture. And the same if we, here, let's load in a sink, and we'll choose a hosted sink as well. Go to plumbing, architectural, fixtures, sinks, and I believe probably one of these guys. Yeah, this is a hosted one. And you can see in the icon here, by the way, I know it's a little hard to see, but there is a little stretch of wall in that icon that indicates the sink is hosted. Click open, and just place the sink there, and we'll place another sink there. Okay. And there you go. You have yourself a lovely bathroom, except that it's awfully breezy in there because there's no walls. So I'm just going to go and add in a couple of walls. I just kind of jumped ahead here and added in some more walls to make these little rooms, some doors so that you could get into them, and two doors so that you can get out of the project. Okay. Anyway, all right. So now we've got a fine-looking existing set of single-stall bathrooms. Let's do some kind of graphical touches to make our plans look a little better. Now, the simplest thing that we can do is just add in some annotation to help describe the plan. First of all, and so let's go to the annotate ribbon. What I'm going to do, I'm going to add what's called a detail line. And detail lines, you can read the description, but they're basically only visible in the current view. And they are often kind of making up for when you don't see certain things. Now, in this case, I want to indicate that there's a 5-foot handicap turnaround that you can have in these spaces. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click the detail line, draw a circle, and over here at the end of the toolbar, temporary toolbar, you'll see there's a number of different kinds of lines. And you can create your own, you can load in new ones. But right now I'm going to use what are called hidden lines. And if you harken back to AutoCAD days, hidden lines are actually dashed lines. So, and I'll just draw a 5-foot turning radius. It's allowed to go under part of the toilet. And I'm going to control, click, and drag to get another one into the other space. Okay, and this is the beauty of using wall-mounted toilets, wall-mounted sinks, is that the handicap turnaround can go underneath to a certain extent. There's a limit, but that's basically it. All right, so that's the simplest form of annotation. There's other good stuff that you can add. For example, here I am on the first floor. Wouldn't it be nice to have a north arrow? Okay, you should pretty much always have a north arrow. There is this kind of graphic standard that up is north in your floor plan. But it's nice to kind of, while we're here on the annotate ribbon, let's add that north arrow. North arrows, strange enough, are not components, although I don't know why they're not components, but they're not. They are what are called symbols, okay? Symbols of who knows what. But anyway, we'll have to load one in. I don't believe it's in there. If you go to the annotations group folder in the library, you should find some north arrows. They're not really very nice north arrows. That's pretty rudimentary, but whatever, there it is. And I'll just put it on the lower right of the floor plan. Okay. And there are all sorts of other symbols, but we're not going to worry about those. Okay, now the other thing that is really nice to do in floor plan and in section and elevation is to make objects that are cut through have a dark fill pattern. Okay, and I'll show you what I mean here. If I select these columns, for example, wouldn't it be nice if they were, instead of just filled with white, if they were filled with gray or some hatch pattern or something like that? Most objects you can select them individually and talk to their family, and make the fill pattern a solid color or a pattern of some sort. So I'm going to select the column, choose Edit Type, and right up at the top you can see here's the coarse scale fill color. Zoom in on that. But there's no pattern set, so it's basically blank. So if we choose coarse scale fill pattern, what you'll see, I'll just click in that box, and I know it's really small, but there are these 3 itty bitty little dots at the end of that cell. Those 3 dots indicate that there is a menu to be had underneath here. And in fact, if you look at, say, pull-down menus in other software, you will see those 3 little dots after commands that are going to open up a menu. Anyway, here is our lovely fill patterns menu. There are quite a few available. What I think we'll go with, and everybody has their own preference. Some people prefer a diagonal crosshatch. Some people prefer to show materials. I'm just going to have a solid fill. Click OK. And I'm going to make the color, let's go with something nice. Let's go with this kind of almost sepia, greenish color. Isn't that stylish? And hit Apply and OK. And now what you'll see is all columns, wherever they are, wherever they may be, except for this one, is filled. This one was joined with some walls, so it's blocked. That seemed like a fair amount of work. Are we going to have to do that with every different family of walls that we need to fill in, and fill, also when we get to the section, floors and ceilings and all that? And the answer is yes. Now, if you only have 1 or 2 types of walls in your project, it's not so bad, but sometimes you want to just graphically change everything all at once. And to do that, we need to go and use what are called view templates. So if I go to my view ribbon, over here in the left, the big button at the end, actually, it's an important button, is the view templates button. And this is a way that you can control visibility, kind of set standards for your projects. For example, when you switch from from schematic design to construction drawings, you're going to want a different look to your project. You can use them. Anyway, what we'll do, I'm going to click on this, and I'm going to go down to Manage View Templates. Okay, let's see what's available in this project. In this particular template, we have quite a few different ones, some to do with stuff that we don't want to know about. But the one that we want to work on here is the architectural plan. Okay, and these are basically view properties that you can set, and what it will do is it allows you to kind of globally change the properties of multiple drawings without having to kind of open them all up. And I'll show you what I mean here. The VG overrides, visibility and graphic overrides, if we go here and we edit it, and this is the same as when you type in VG, or visibility and graphic overrides, in the main drawing properties, I can scroll down and find the walls layer, and then what Revit allows you to do is override certain graphical features. In this case, what I want to do is override the cut pattern that is on all the walls. I don't want to mess with the projection or the surface materials, just the cut patterns. So I click on the override button, either one will work, and let's make the color that same lovely kind of sepia-ish color, and let's make it solid fill, and OK, and apply, and OK. And now we've changed this architectural plan template, view template. Wait a second, why is nothing changing? Oh, it's because this particular view, when I go and get the view properties, there's no template assigned. You have to scroll down in the view properties, down here in item number 63, is the view template where you can choose which one you want. And you can even set this particular template to be used for all new plans. Okay, all right. And there you go. You have your lovely colors to your plan. We can do the same to the second level. Okay, we can go here and choose view template, architectural plan, and like magic, everything gets hatched. Here, oh, I just noticed we have the view underlay still on. We're going to want to turn that off. Okay, so let's just go up here where it says underlay. And again, it's kind of in the middle of this endless menu. Just click inside the name of the base level and tell it none. Okay, and apply, and your first floor will disappear, and you'll start to have a nice looking floor plan. Oh, except I noticed that the toilet walls go all the way up to the roof. Well, we'll have to change that at some point. Section drawings, well, we can use the same view template trick. I'll just go to Manage View Templates again. And this time I'll choose Architectural Section, go to my Visibility and Graphic Overrides, and come in and start turning off or changing the cut properties of different elements. Now, I'm not going to go through every one, but what I will say is that you have to look at the drawing and choose what's going to be cut through. In this case, ceilings, walls, certainly floors and roofs are going to want to be changed. So as you can see, I have applied these view templates to my two section views. It is very nice when everything kind of has this consistent graphical look, and the graphical look is actually pretty nice. And there are some other features that we could change, including the line weights. Depending on the scale that you've got, you may want to increase the line weight to be a little darker. Talking about, or let's actually talk about creating interior elevations. Okay, as long as we're here on the view ribbon, it seems like a great moment. Basically, interior elevations are pretty straightforward in how they put them together. There is an elevation tool. Okay, I'll click on the elevation tool. There are, by the way, other kinds of elevations. These are actually kind of controlled by templates, which we just learned about. But let's just go with the regular elevation. And in our world of binary things, there are two kinds of elevations: building elevations and interior elevations. Obviously, we want interior elevations. And what you'll see, Revit is kind of interesting in the way it handles elevations. This is the elevation symbol, the elevation tag. See how the little witch's hat points at whatever wall it thinks you want to draw an elevation of. Okay. Now I'm just going to allow it to point at this side wall here, and I'll click to place the elevation symbol. And you might say, well, what happened? Well, you know, what is that showing us? It's not showing us anything yet. Like the section symbol that's nearby, you have to double click on the icon to bring up the elevation. All right. Now, interior elevations have a number of, let's say, quirky features that kind of bug me in Revit. But fortunately, because we just learned about view templates, we can get rid of some of these things on all interior elevations that we create. First of all, I want the perimeter line to be nice and dark all the time in my interior elevations. I also don't want to see these level indicators or section indicators. So what we can do is use our view template to basically hide those and make it using the visibility and graphic overrides. So let's go back to our view templates, manage view templates. We'll go to the architectural elevation, which is the top one, and go to visibility and graphic overrides. On the annotation tab here up top, there's a couple of different tabs with different categories. Okay, let's go to annotation, and well, basically we could turn off probably most of these, but I'm going to go scroll down and find the section indicator right here, sections, and then what was the other one? Oh, levels. Let's get rid of those levels. Okay, and apply, and okay, and okay. And now we'll come back and we'll apply that view template, and like magic, it will clean up some of the features that were bugging me. So one of the other pet peeves I have about interior elevations is that Revit never seems to draw them right. It often draws the floor in there. So we need to select the crop boundary, which is the way Revit kind of decides how much of the model to show or not. And then we can use these grips here to drag the perimeter of the elevation so that it reflects the actual volume of the space. Okay, you don't show anything that's cut through. Now, the thing that bugs me is that these beams, we should not be showing the cut through part of those beams. So what we need to do is actually edit this crop boundary and make it follow the profile of the beams. And this is pretty easy. Up in the upper right of your screen, there is an edit crop button. Okay, just choose that. Oops. And it goes into good old sketch mode. And we can use our lovely purple lines, and we can draw new lines to represent the new boundary. Anything beyond this crop region boundary will be hidden. Okay, and this is great if you have a sloping ceiling or something like that, and you want it to show up nice and dark. Okay, and I'll just click the checkbox when I'm done, and there, that is a proper interior elevation. Now, lastly, but not leastly, I wish that was a darker line. Now here, Revit and its templates and all its other stuff doesn't help us. We actually need to just override the graphics in this view of this particular element. There unfortunately is no way to control it globally. So you just right-click on the crop region. Make sure you have the crop region and not some wall or ceiling or something. Choose Override Graphics by Element, and then we can come in here, and rather than change the color, which is just fine, let's just make it a heavier line weight. 6 is a good line weight. You can see how it's nice and dark. And of course, this is a preference that you may or may not have, but it just bugs me, so I'm going to show you how to do it. So there's one lovely interior elevation. How do we make another one? Well, interior elevations are created in plan view. What you need to do is the symbol is the key to the whole thing. You click on the center of the symbol, and that brings up the other three possible interior elevations. And what we want to do is we don't want to repeat any elevation. For example, this section view will show this elevation. And the other section, will show this far wall. What we're missing is this elevation down here. So I'll just click the little checkbox, and it will draw the elevation. Now, interestingly enough, if I were to check this box, and then realized, oh, wait, we've already got that one, and uncheck it, Revit will give me a warning that you're going to delete that elevation. That is just that one particular elevation on this symbol, not the other two. Okay. So anyway, and that's basically all you need to do to draw your elevation. Come in here. It's annoying looking because of all the annotation. You can come in and apply your view template. You can find the button down here somewhere. Sometimes my scroll wheel is a little annoying. I don't know why. Anyway, and then we can come in and make those same cleanup moves that we did before. And override the graphics here to get a nice dark line weight. It is important that you remember the numbers and the colors that you use when you're overriding these elements, because what you don't want to have to do is come back in later on. Now, the last, one other thing that you can do, sometimes these interior elevations are a little hard to read, okay, because Revit doesn't always do a good job with line weights. For example, my preference would be this beam and this column be a slightly darker line weight. Well, guess what? There is a tool, and it is called the line weight tool. Let's look here on the Modify ribbon. Go here, and scroll over here, and here is the line work tool. Sorry, line work, not line weight. And what it does is it is very similar to what we've been doing so far. It overrides the graphics of individual elements. In this case, I'm going to choose a medium line. It's just overriding whatever line I click on. It only works on lines. And, you know, kind of tidies things up a little bit. And not everybody is quite so picky about these things, but I happen to like it. You don't actually notice it all that much until you zoom in or until you print it out. So one thing that's nice to add to our interior elevations are wall bases, you know, those things that occur at the bottom of walls. They protect the finish from getting scuffed. I'm a big fan of scuff prevention. And the way that you do things like wall base and crown moldings, those are what are called sweeps. And sweeps are elements which attach to walls and kind of run along the length of a wall. And you can put them in one at a time, or you can actually define them as part of the wall. And I'll show you how to do that, do both of those. First of all, you have to load in the sweeps. You can't load them in the same way that you load in components. You have to go to the Insert menu first and choose Load Family. So you don't do it kind of in the middle of the tool. You have to do it, I don't know, in advance. And they're what are called profiles. Okay, profiles are how Revit defines things like trim. And let's go with finished carpentry. And there's a couple here that you'll see. There's like a wall base and a crown. Yeah, let's go with a crown. Let's go with a crown. I think I'm going to do a wall base one, and I'm going to also do the base. So just hold down Control to select non-continuous ones. You can also hold down Shift and select them all if you just can't decide, but it does make it a little hard to choose. Click Open. And then what you have to do is put the sweeps on the walls. Now I find I really prefer to see the whole room when I'm putting in sweeps. So let's go to our default 3D view. And you might say, how am I going to get wall bases inside this space? Well, the 3D view, if you go to the view properties, again, nothing selected, nothing up my sleeve, there is, in the center of the view properties, a feature called the section box. I'm going to turn that on. And what that is, it's basically kind of a three-dimensional crop region. And I'll click on it, and it makes these grips become visible. And you can move your mouse over the grip to make it hot, to use AutoCAD terminology. And then you can just click and drag on this grip control, and as you stretch it down, it crops away the model. And now I can just use those tools for zooming that we talked about earlier, where you can scroll the click and drag your scroll wheel to edit the model. Okay. So now what's nice about this is when I want to go and put in wall base, I can really see the whole room and make sure that it goes in correctly. It's just a lot easier than in elevation view. The way to create a sweep along the wall, you just go to the architecture ribbon under wall, and there's something called wall sweep. And again, you can watch the video or the image that shows you sweeps are basically linear elements along the wall. Now, right now, the default sweep, it's called a cornice, but it's actually an exterior cornice. And this is why we loaded in what we did. Now, right now, there's only this one. So I'm going to choose Edit Type. And like we did before with walls and windows, we're going to create our own. I'm going to duplicate this guy, and we'll call it Wood Wall Base. Okay? And over here in the menu, we can choose the profile that is used in this wall base. And like with a lot of Revit menus, you click inside the cell to get any available sweeps, any available menu items. And I'm going to go with a moderately sized one here, a 5.5 inch coursing. You can also do other things, define manufacturers and other materials, which if you're creating schedules is really great. But for now, about the only thing you might be interested in is applying a material. But we'll get to that later when we go and render. So click OK. And now what you'll see is connected to your cursor is this wooden wall base, okay? And by default, it is going to want to go onto walls, okay? There are the ability to put them vertically, but we're not going to do that. Anyway, we can click on the wall to place it. Oop, come back. Sorry, my scroll wheel's getting out of hand. And now we can nudge it up and down. Okay, that's probably better done in interior elevation. However, like I mentioned, I prefer to do it in these views, the axonometric view, because I can see exactly how far the sweep goes. So, for example, when I go to place a sweep on this front wall, I'll just go wall sweep again and choose my wood wall base. What you'll see is that it doesn't quite work because it goes in front of the windows. We can't have that. Well, it's very easy in this particular view to click on the sweep to select it, and then there are these grips which become available. See how there's a little dot, a little blue dot, which we've seen in a number of other elements. We can drag that and drag it over and have it just cover one portion of that exterior wall. So adding sweeps one by one is really handy, and we could create another one for the crown molding if we wanted one. Now, for interior partitions, it's actually a lot easier to add the sweep to the wall itself. So I'm going to come in here, I'm going to grab one of these interior partitions, okay, the simple ones, and here so we can see what happens when we apply the sweep to the entire wall system. To apply a sweep to the entire wall, just choose Edit Type, okay, and within the Type properties, at the very top is the structure. You can edit the structure of the wall, click that, and we did this with ceilings. We messed around with the structure. Now, in our case, we want to add what's called a sweep to the structure of the wall so that all instances of the wall have it. Interesting, it's kind of grayed out there, and the reason is you need to preview the wall. You just click the preview button, and then you need to preview it in section. For whatever reason, that's the rule with Revit, is that you have to preview it in section, and now sweeps are available. And I'll just click on the sweeps button here, and it brings up the wall sweeps menu, and I can add a menu and choose whatever profile I want, and I think we were using this 5.5-inch one. And there's a number of other categories. Is it on the inside or the outside of the wall? Okay, like I mentioned before, you can apply the material. Okay, I can even duplicate this one and put one on the exterior and one on the interior. And apply, and okay. And when you do this, let me zoom in on the base of this wall, you see how now there are wall bases on the profile of this wall. And again, you could do this with crown moldings. When you do it with a crown molding, you would have to obviously change the profile to be the profile you want, and you would have to make sure that the height, the offset height, so that's the distance from the floor, is set to something that makes sense in your space. Now, I tend to do the crown moldings room by room because ceiling height's very significant. Anyway, I'll click OK, and OK, and now we're back in the type properties. Click Apply, and OK, and what you will see is that every room now has a wall base. And if you go and you swing around to the inside of those rooms, there's one there too. Okay. Now the exterior wall here is brick, so we're going to need to apply those one by one because you don't want to be applying moldings to the outside of the building, just the inside. Same with this plumbing wall, you'll want to apply the moldings and base to that wall type as well. I didn't mention that when you start looking at your interior elevations, you want to make sure that you've got those sweeps everywhere you want them to be. In this case, I had shortened this little section of sweep here, but I still want some on this section of wall and this section of wall too. And pretty much there's an easy way to do that, which is you just use the copy command, copy the sweep, give it a base point, and move it over to where you want it to go. Okay, now you have another little section of sweep. This one is totally independent and can be edited on its own. And then I'll just copy that one last time over to the corner here. And there you go. You can't always get every corner to work just the way you want. Sometimes trim folds into a thick door opening. Those are a lot more tricky to handle. But basically, with the elements that you have seen through these first couple of videos, you should be able to produce a pretty convincing set of interior design documents.